There we go. All right, I can start the freaking camera from my phone so I don't have to reach around every time we grab a new thing. But plan for today, what I really need is more protein. That's the only thing I'm kind of lacking. So before I actually kind of started, I got my own stuff first. I've got it's not that I'm like super particular, but I do kind of have a little bit of a specific kind of hair routine. Some days I'll just be like extra kind of frizzy. So I do like a leave-in conditioner. That's kind of been a hack. I guess I wouldn't be surprised if I liked like a sea salt spray. I feel like I see that all over the place, but I don't know. I'm long due for a haircut anyway, but yeah, I guess we'll see what happens. So in terms of a grocery trip, let's assume you're just getting whatever the hell your mom's bringing home, and that's the end of it, right? So you're making do. She's getting pissed at you because you ate all the eggs, because a normal household, they're not eating 12 or 14 egg whites at once. That's a little bit extra on your end. So maybe next time you come in, you've got your regular family list. So that's going to be, just your classic milk, flour, sugar, like an old school 60s grocery list. But you got a few extra specific needs. So you want to cover, I don't want to say you want to cover 3 bases, because a lot of the times the dietary fats that you're getting from your regular food, they're very abundant, so it's to the point where if you're getting protein specific food and carb specific food, so rices, breads, I'm not against bagels, tortillas. Some guys are real diehard like white rice only. I'm definitely not of that cloth, because at the end of the day, let's be real, the amount of carbs in any particular meal, it's the amount that's extra important, right? Even if I was trying to do my, full-on prep, if I had a day where my 150 grams of carbs came from like a pre-workout bag of Skittles and then a post-workout like 100 gram of carb sorbet, so just straight sugar for all 150 grams, I would still be under my macros and be in my deficit that I want to be in, because the energy in that 150 grams of carbs is going to be the same. Now, of course, that's not a you should, that's more of a you could statement. So I think, where's I about to go with this? But you don't have to be so tied down to one carb or the other, right? Let's say you're a diehard, I don't even know what, you're a diehard something. Well, yeah, I guess, I don't know. I don't think anybody's into any weird carbs. But either way, let's stop talking. Let's go grab some protein. All right, so this is actually a slightly more recent development. Just in prep, you kind of have to make your calories freaking stretch. So for a while, I was doing this kind of whey protein sort of mix of just, however many grams of just plain Greek yogurt. It's been a while since I've actually looked at the macros of this, because over the last 2 months, now that prep has been over, I have not been eating so specifically, but mixing, serving and a half of just a regular Greek yogurt, 1 scoop of a protein of your choice. And then this is where you can get a little extra tricky. You can add a sugar-free maple syrup. So, I don't know what your preference is on artificial sweeteners. Sometimes things that are more like solid, like a lot of low-calorie protein bars, they're going to have a ton of allulose and like xylitol and different sort of sugar alcohols, just to be a lower carb kind of thing. But a lot of the times those will like totally mess with my stomach and just make me feel like just not even bloated, but just like gross. But any kind of aspartame-based thing, diet sodas, a lot of these like sugar-free maple syrups, I never noticed an issue. So 2 or 3 servings of that, probably worth 3 grams of carbs-ish added, and then you dip a rice cake, that's solid. And you're looking at maybe 50 grams of protein, 30 grams of carbs, 0 grams of fat, or maybe 1 gram of fat from the protein itself. But having Greek yogurt in the fridge is not something to forget. And then when it comes to eggs, I used to be more of a diehard like full egg kind of guy, like a dozen with yolks. So that's what, maybe 72 grams of protein, and then it's 60 grams of fat. that's a bit much. I mean, shit, I'm trying to eat like 50 grams of fat total for the day. So a full dozen of eggs, I mean, that's just not going to work. But getting cartons of egg whites a lot easier. For one, you don't have to crack and separate them, but that's something you can look at. Back when I was in school, I was a lot more concerned with this. I'd be kind of doing the math on essentially a CPD, a cost, CPG, cost per gram. Like I remember trying to calculate, like, okay, what's the most efficient protein source I can get? So you're gonna look at regular serving size, calculate the amount of protein. So this is gonna be what, 20 servings, 5 grams of protein each. So 100 grams of protein right here, divide that by the cost, and then you can kind of see what you're working with. Because a whey protein, I think I remember being around like 11 cents per gram, but some of the ground beefs and eggs and things like that, you can get a little closer to more like 3 or 4. So if that's how you're working it, probably gonna wanna lean towards those leaner cost options. But now, let's go get some freaking red meat. Eggs and yogurt, it's a good start. All right, so I've got 2 things that I'm looking for specifically now. So that's gonna be a ground beef and then some sort of steak. So the steak we can get into once we get back home. I've got a very particular method. But with the ground beef, I mean, you know, I've had just the standard Meyer brand, probably corn-fed, corn-finished. I'm sure the grass-fed, grass-finished is a lot better, so that's what I'm gonna get. But really, I don't know if I can tell a taste difference or even like an intended outcome difference, but this is something you're gonna wanna look out for. That's gonna be these 2 numbers right here. So 92.8 versus 85.15. So not necessarily a complete game changer, because if you're gonna strain your beef at the end of the day, the whole thing's cooked, it's a little bit more of a chore to strain when you've got like, you know, maybe a full cup worth of just released water and fats, versus with the leaner beef, you know, it might be closer to half a cup. And if you're dieting, this can be where you can really get yourself in trouble, because if you're eating, you know, let's say a half pound of ground beef per meal, and you've got maybe 10, maybe not, 10, you know, even 5 grams of fat in that ground beef that you're not accounting for, well, I mean, shit, let's say you eat that ground beef for 5 meals of your 5, or 4, whatever. Well, that's gonna be an extra, at a minimum, 20 grams of fat-ish, 180 calories. I mean, some guys are in a deficit that only is 180 calories. So to have those 20 grams of fat sneak in, you're not tracking it because you don't know about it. Well, you might think you're dieting all, you know, you're putting all this work in, but you're not actually losing any more weight. So that's where if you're really getting into this loop of track my calories for the day, stick to my macros, weigh myself in the mirror, weigh myself on the scale in the morning, and repeat, you want to know how much food, how much, let's just say, energy is going into your system, so that you can watch your weight on the scale and adjust accordingly, you know? So I'd say leaner the better. But when it comes to steaks, a little more of a personal preference. But the way that I'm gonna cook it later is gonna require a top round. Not require, but just my preference. So probably one of the leaner cuts, certainly much more just plain red, as opposed to something like, I don't know if I even know how to cook a freaking chuck roast, but something like this, much whiter, you know, much more marbling, right? That's something I don't necessarily need right now. You know, I'm not leveraging calories so hard that I need to gain like, you know, 15 pounds a month or anything. But I think that covers me, at least for a little while. I've got some ground beef cooked at the house, so I'm not strapped for protein. So let's grab some carbs. All right, this is a little more of just a treat for me because I like it. Just grabbing any kind of random sugar-free juice, which is all I end up drinking anyway, because if I've got a gallon of water and then I add, you know, whatever 0-calorie sweetener to it, I mean, it's not like I'm drinking it purely for the sake of the ingredients. It's more so I want to make sure I get to, I don't have a specific number, but if you're drinking close to a gallon per day, you're definitely not dehydrated, is my main thing. This is kind of a, I don't want to say a pet peeve, but just a classic sort of question situation. Somebody be in the gym, exertion headache, I'll see comments about it. What did you drink today? You know, one energy drink in the morning and then a pre-workout and a coffee, maybe a coffee in the morning as well. It's not really gonna cut it, you know? So grab something sweet, unless, and honestly, I think the people who do have a problem with aspartame, it's purely psychological. You know, I think you might be tricking yourself into thinking that it's actually doing something. Even worse, the people are gonna say that a full sugar soda is better than a diet. I mean, this is one thing that kind of perplexes me every time I'm in an airport and I see somebody just, they got a full-on Mountain Dew right there, and I'm like, I could see the logic pre-workout. I could see the logic pre-workout. You've got, or even post-workout, maybe not with the caffeine, but with the sugar-based carbs. But just chilling, I mean, I don't know. You're not gonna catch me just sipping a straight-up Sprite, but a Sprite Zero, totally different situation. All right, this will do me quite well. So now that I'm not so concerned about, you know, having to stick to my 2,300 calorie per day limit, what used to be almost exclusively just the lightly salted plain rice cakes, I'm much more of a fan of the white cheddar. So I guess this is up to you. You know, some people have their own, I'm grabbing 3. Some people have their own peeves about it. I mean, I've seen videos where guys say they couldn't even, they're just gonna throw away the rest of their white cheddar because they don't like it. Personally, I think that's kind of nuts. But just as a plain, ready carb source, honestly, half a sleeve, because that's how they come. It's individually packaged. There's 2 sealed sleeves of 7 rice cakes here. I don't want to say as a meal substitute, because when we think meal, I think we're typically thinking like 1 plate, protein portion here, carb portion here, and then maybe maybe some kind of sauce and condiment that would kind of add to that fat value. But I think that perception is kind of, I don't know, overplayed. Not overplayed, but just like classic. Because if I'm sitting with half a pound of ground beef in one bowl, 7 rice cakes, and then a freaking 0 sugar ocean spray, I mean, that's perfect. But yeah, with 3 of those sleeves, that's what, 7, it's 9 carbs each. So what's 14 times 9? That's about 300 grams of carbs. I've still got a bunch of raw cream of rice at the house. They're not yet in Meyer, I don't think. I'm sure it will be soon. So really, I don't think I need too many more. That's basically everything. All right, I lied. One more thing now that I think about it. All right, yeah, this is what I'm talking about. So, cream of rice, solid, but I have a certain nostalgia for OG cream of wheat. And, it's certainly not, actually, what's the difference? Packets. Yeah, I don't need packets. Yeah, 2 of these will do you good. So, same approach as the cream of rice. I guess if you're more of a tabletop stove kind of guy, then you just mix it up on the stove and keep stirring it until it's done. But cream of rice, maybe, I'm usually doing about 100 grams of carbs worth at a time. Add 25 grams of brown sugar, plus about 200 grams of frozen blueberries. Mix until homogeneous. I mean, that's pretty good. That's been my kind of go-to pre-workout meal. Not for the last few weeks, but at least for the last week. Either the cream of wheat or just the cream of rice. Kind of an either-or style situation. But I think most people now are probably going to lean a bit more cream of rice. The cream of wheat, unless you flavor it with something, it's a little, it's kind of just flavorless. Like it takes flavor well with the brown sugar and those frozen blueberries, but you probably wouldn't catch me eating just a plain bowl of cream of wheat. Like that's, I feel like that's on the level of just eating straight up grits. It's instead of a solid carb-based meal, I feel like you're eating porridge or some kind of stew. But yeah, super basic. If you'll notice, no Krispy Kreme, and no. I remember I used to get this one kind of ice cream that I really liked. It was like a bunny. I was about to say Bonnie Blue. No, I think it's Blue Bunny. This kind of just Oreo, crushed vanilla. The thing was nuts. I feel like I've probably had 30 30 quarts over the course of the last few bulks. Now some of those were back when I was in school, so I was going a little bit just a little bit dirtier in general. But the more that I'm eating these kind of whole foods, simpler meals, and this might just be like a size thing, because now that I'm just floating around 250, I've just got to eat more to even maintain that. The more gunk I kind of end up pushing through me, it just, like, I can feel it. It's not as though I just feel like gross or anything, just a little puffier, a little more inflamed, like more plain stuff like this, even though it's not as flashy, and it's definitely not as tasty in some instances. Like if I've still got a craving to really like hit my sweet tooth, well then, I mean, the occasional Skittles, the occasional gummy bear, it's certainly not off the table, but in moderation, right? I think in moderation is the key word there. But this will do me good for the next couple days. I mean, I'm going on a trip in a little while, so I don't have to completely stock up with everything. But yeah, expect these a little more frequently. I got to start bringing the camera out to the grocery store a little more. But yeah, things like this, if you got a grocery cart, I'm thinking back to when I would take a picture of like a full-on Krispy Kreme Cinnamon Toast Crunch, whole milk, chocolate milk quart. Times are a-changin'. How about we just put it like that? But yeah, current weight, I think 250 just about. So eating stuff like this over the next few months should climb that ladder up to who freaking knows. We'll just have to see then.